whether you have been diagnosed with cancer and now you're trying to conceive, whether you are concerned about the risk of cancer while trying to conceive, or maybe your family, there's a higher risk of cancer in your family, and you want to be able to prevent it and really get yourself in the healthiest spot. So when you have your children, everything, everyone's in a healthy spot. This episode is for you. It is really a call to action. Getting a diagnosis like cancer can be extremely scary, and you may not know which way to turn. Typically, conventional medicine is chemotherapy and surgery. We're talking about a functional or integrative approach, really looking at this completely differently. It is a call to action, a call to arms to really, there's things we can do to really empower ourselves. I'm taking listeners' questions. There's a lot of questions we have on breast cancer, bioidentical hormones, thyroid issues, and thyroidectomy, thyroid cancer, addressing all these questions. So excited for you to listen to this episode with our guest, Dr. Keneally. So excited for you to listen. Let's go. Hey, Dr. Keneally, excited to have you on the podcast.
Great to be here.
Awesome. So if you could share with us really how you came to do this work.
Oh, wow. Well, it's been a circuitous journey, but I was born in Texas. I'm number 3 of 6 kids. And my mother started bleeding when she was pregnant with me. So she went to her physician, and her physician said, I have this medication that will stop the bleeding and preserve the baby. So that drug was called DES, diethylstilbestrol. So that was a drug used a long time ago. It's not used today. But when I was 16 years of age, my parents got a letter stating that that drug, DES, caused cancer in both male and female offspring, hormone problems, infertility problems, anatomical problems, all kind of problems. And, depending on what time of the pregnancy, every woman and man manifested different things. So anyway, so I had to go to MD Anderson, which is probably the largest cancer institution in the world, to start getting checkups and pap smears and biopsies and all kind of things. And so I did that for, I've done it really all the rest of my life. And then I wanted to be a doctor. So I went to college and then went to medical school. And then I went to UT School of Public Health. And I did my final paper on DES. And that was like in 1979, something like that. And I worked at Texas Heart Institute across the street with Denton Cooley. And anyway, then I went to medical school. And then after medical school, I went to Harvard UCLA. And so then after training, I wanted to start my practice. And so I met this gentleman from Texas who was a pathologist and internist. And he, really started teaching me about endocrinology and hormones and more about hormones. Okay. Because I'm a new doctor, new doctors, all they know is didactically what they learned in medical school. So I was like, whoa, wow, this is real interesting information. He was a lot older than me. So of course he's had years. And when you're a pathologist is the doctor who's looking at the tissue under, the microscope. And then he was an internist seeing patients every day and admitting patients to the hospital. So anyway, and he said, you need to focus on weight loss, because weight loss is, if you're a new doctor, it's a great way to get patients, but focus on it from a metabolic standpoint. I go, oh, that's great. And I was interested because I'm a female. And, at some point in time, every woman wants to lose weight, right? And it's actually a constant thing, right? Mm-hmm. You're always trying to keep your weight down, right? Or weight in optimal. And so, he told me, you need to have a dietitian in your office, and et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, so that's what I did. I started my practice, had a dietitian, and all we did is teach people how to keep their weight. And we did extensive blood work testing, which I learned from him, checking thyroid and checking your hormones, et cetera. And then, of course, I had a lot of my own issues. Okay. I started my period late, which is a good thing. but I never had 2 periods in a row in my life. So, in my whole life, because the DES just it was like my hypothalamic pituitary axis was messed up. And then I went through infertility, all right? All my babies are like through interventional medicine. And when I was dying to have a kid, I was dying to have a child. So, I was kind of willing to do anything, unfortunately or fortunately. And then I've had a lot of detours along the way because of the DES. I had scoliosis. I've had, dysplasia. I've had, lots of things. And so, because I know that conventional medicine is great when you're working someone up, but our treatments are usually deleterious, immunosuppressive, and injurious. And so our job as physician is one, to teach our patients, number one, but number two is to protect them and care for them the most optimal way. And I don't feel, and because I've been a patient, I chose different things in different ways and different people to work with for myself, and the things I've learned through going through this process. I have really, really have a different lens because of that. And so I want everyone to know what I know, okay, on every level. And I've been a mother, I've had children, I have grandkids. And, I look back and I look how I had my kids, and I was a really fanatical mom. But the knowledge, I mean, my oldest is 31 too, meaning I did a lot of things, but I would have done just a few things differently. Now I know what I know now. Okay. And I think there's a lot of great mothers that I meet in my practice who are just doing fabulous jobs creating this beautiful environment for their children. And I'm just so proud of them because they're like taking charge, and, it's just beautiful. All right. And that's the way it's supposed to be. So it's been a very wild journey, but I'm here to talk about it. And we want life to be a straight line, but it's like this. You fall upwards. And so and so you can't be an expert if you haven't had a lot of detours. You just can't be. Reading a book is one thing, but living it is the real deal. And so, because I have read the books and applied the science and lived it, I feel like I have a very, very unique perspective. In fact, if I go to a physician, I would ask them first and foremost, have you ever been really ill? If they haven't, I'd say forget it, because they can't help me. And then if I would never go to a physician who just knows how to prescribe medicines or do a procedure, I would like run from those people. So, and I think everyone needs to really, really do due diligence on everything they're doing. Be very careful, be very cautionary about any irreversible decisions they make in their life when it comes to your health.
Totally agree. Totally agree with everything you're saying. Awesome. So thanks for sharing your journey with us. Yeah, so this topic that we're digging in today, actually, I had many people come to me saying, can you do an episode on the podcast on cancer? And I'm like, okay, wait a minute, who do I speak with? So I went to my community I'm in the mind share community, a lot of doctors, and your name kept coming up. I'm like, okay, let's get her on. And then I DM'd you and you replied right away. So I was very, very thankful for you coming on here. And so we support couples. So I had my own journey where I was diagnosed with premature ovarian insufficiency. I had both my kids with donor eggs. Years later, discovered gut infections, chronic yeast infections, bacteria, food sensitivities, and chronic stress, and then really helping couples with low AMH and high FSH. So with that, many times people come to us and they have experienced cancer. So if someone has experienced cancer and has gone through treatment, what are some of your recommendations when they're ready to start trying to conceive?
Oh, that's a great question. And one thing I will tell you, because I think everyone needs to know, and you're not allowed to, people aren't allowed to really say what you want, what you need to say. And I just feel like should be front page news is not. So, for example, cancer now is 1 in 2 people. So 1 in 2 people today. It's the number one killer of people 1 to 85. The amount of new people, young people that I am seeing in the last year is beyond alarming. Beyond, it's a 911. Okay. So I'm talking 18 years old with ovarian cancer. I'm talking so many 30-year-olds, give or take 3 or 4 or 5 years, with breast cancer. They nursing their baby, they feel a lump. Okay. I mean, so many. All right. Thyroid cancer is alarmingly increasing. But young people, the things I'm seeing, and they're not, and what's interesting is they're not unhealthy people. They're like people like us. They're really into their health. They're really into living in a beautiful sanctuary in their home with, organic and gardens and pure and all the things that we got to do to live in this world today. And so I am like racking my brain, and I have intimate conversations with these people because I want to learn so I can help anyone and everyone. Okay. Like I reflect on what my day is like. And then I'm seeing just like bizarre, rapidly growing, like what is going on here? Right. So today, like we used to say, oh, people have a warranty until they're 40, nothing really happens, everything's fine. I can't say that anymore. And I have to treat every patient as if they have cancer or some real serious disease until proven otherwise. So that's how I work and operate. So if you've had cancer, that cancer is defined as a chronic condition like diabetes and other heart disease. So it's not something that you ever goes away. But I tell people, I don't want you to become your label. It's something that you have, you're going to conquer it and be victorious over it. And I teach the patients how we know you're cancer free and you're fine. Okay. And so we do extreme comprehensive workups on patients. So anyone who's had cancer and you want to get pregnant, boy, you better make sure. And especially, if you've used chemo, we got to really get your endocrine system and in ideal optimal, because whatever the mother is, the baby becomes. So if your adrenals aren't good, then the baby's adrenals aren't good, and all of that. So we got to make sure your hormones are optimal. Okay. And I am a hormonal expert from reading, studying, and living it. Okay. And now I'm, in menopause beyond. Okay. So we got to make sure that your entire system is working. I tell people, you don't go to the car dealership and buy part of the car. You want a whole car with everything working optimally. All right. So we got to make sure everything is clean. Then we got to make sure your nutrition is great. Then I do something called bioenergetic testing. You have acupuncture points in your fingers and toes that correspond to every organ in your body. This is nothing new. This is something that's been around. Dr. Voll, who was a physicist, medical doctor, taught that your acupuncture points are like a wire or a string of pearls to an organ or gland. So I tell people energy precedes action. So before something happens, a lot of things took place. So cancer is a 10-year disease. Heart disease is probably 20-year disease. So from one abnormal cell to cancer is 10 years. And so that means we have plenty of time to prevent and optimize any patient with what we know today, but it's not being done. It's all about treatment, not about prevention, preciseness, early detection. Nothing is about that for any disease. Okay. And the medical system is reactive. What drug and what surgery do you need? And that's it. So obviously that is not, because drugs or toxins and surgeries are irreversible, and they're injurious and immunosuppressive to each patient. So I would make sure not only the female but the male is optimal. Okay. So we need to create excellent optimal human beings, because you're going to create the most magnificent miracle that there ever is. Okay. And anyone who's had a child, I'm telling you, when they see that baby, all they think is miracle, correct? And
Absolutely.
so and just perfection and miracle and unbelievable, indescribable, right? So, and you don't know that until you've had that baby and and you get to experience the day in, day out miracle. I mean, my little daughter is 28 and I was like, I mean, she helps me with, our business, with my business. And, she's just this, like effervescent, excellent and just every day, works all day long, every day, just because that's what she loves. She loves the constant quest of information. And I just go, wow, I have this little, this little genius, that is just so passionate about excellence and integrity and being her best, And I'm like, wow, I'm so lucky that I got that. Now, also, I directed and guided it, but there is nature and then there's nurture. And so, so you sometimes you get what you get, and sometimes you've got to work on what you get. And so, because not everything is perfect, but I do know that, I really tried to create this not perfect, this excellent environment for my kids on a day-to-day basis, because I never used medications for my children. Okay. My kids, we didn't ever go to the doctor because I knew how to use natural things to get them well. And my twins that are 28, I have a girl and boy twin, I've never used a medicine on them ever, ever. And they have never missed one day of work or life or school. So that is, a testament to, not having plastics, having play, not having technology, eating right, exercising, mindfulness, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's been a interesting journey. And I know that like you're teaching it, we can teach other people how to get this. And people say, oh, well, I'm too busy. No, you're not too busy. You're not too busy. Children they're creative, imaginative beings. And so, they have playtime. So that playtime is also your time to do something productive, you know? So,
Yeah, it's interesting. So I didn't discover any of this till maybe about 12 years ago. So in the beginning, both my kids were like pounding all kinds of antibiotics, doing all this kind of stuff. And I came from this my mom was extremely like healthy. She's been a vegan for like 35 years and, really into health. And then they lopped off half her thyroid and now she thinks she has Alzheimer's. I'm like, well, because she's not taking medication, all this kind of
whoa,
stuff. But yeah, it's interesting. Then I left the house and said, I'm not going to eat that way and went and ate a bunch of junk. And then my fertility really took a nosedive. But yeah, there's so many things we can do. Once we know this stuff, it's like, oh my goodness, why doesn't everyone else know it? And that's why I have a podcast. And that's why you've written a number of books and really sharing the message. So a number of people come to us with breast cancer. So what's your take on breast cancer, the different types, I guess, as far as risk with trying to conceive? Anything you wanted to share with us there?
all right. Well, breast cancer now is the number one cancer and obviously exploding, like I just said too, in younger people, it's not just older people. And I will tell you an interesting story. I had a patient come in from Utah, no, not Utah, Idaho, and she was diagnosed. And so she was deciding, about her surgery. And, a lot of patients want to come to me to get veracity, truth of what they should do and how should they can handle it and all that, because they don't hear that from their physician. They just hear surgery, here's the chemo, here's this, and that's what we're going to do. And they need like, okay, I need complete transparency and understanding of what I'm doing, how I should do it. So anyway, I saw her, darling, precious little girl, 34, couple of three kids, doing everything amazing, super healthy. She came in with her dad, which I thought was wonderful that she had this support system and this advocate with her. Because, when you're a patient, you're just so overwhelmed and scared and in fear and thinking so many things that you need another person who can be the voice of reason and the person who can help you process everything. And so I said, and she was deciding, okay, should I do this surgery? And I said, well, first of all, we're not going to rush. You didn't get this yesterday. So I said, let's figure this out. Let's order the proper imaging. So they hadn't ordered all the proper imaging. And I said, you know what I feel like we should do is either, or because you're young, we need to order a PET scan or a whole body MRI, because PET scans a lot of patients because of the radiation. And I said, I get it. So let's do a whole body MRI. Well, when I did the whole body MRI, it was all in her bones. So surgery wasn't even an option.
Mm.
And so, I tell people we have to verify, and make sure. And so then, of course, she went from having a surgery on her breast to now completely changed course with it all in her bones. And so, and when you're young, one thing we have to really understand is that when you are young, cancer is much more aggressive because the DNA is rapidly dividing. Where if you're 60 plus, it's slower, and if you're 70, it's much slower. And so we have to understand. I always tell every young person, when you see me, I watch you like a hawk, because cancer is so aggressive when you're young. And it's not because you're so bad, it's just the cancer. And so, and also in 2022, we're living in a different world. I tell people, if our world is so healthy, why is everyone sick? 54% of our children are ill. Okay. 10 prescriptions written per man, woman, and child. Okay. Our disease is still growing despite the use of statins, because statins do not work. And then cancer is 1 and 2. And the third leading cause of death in this country is the medical system and medical errors. So that means we have to really, really become a perpetual student now and learn everything you can, get as many opinions you have, listen to as many health podcasts, because all the health podcasts are kind of saying the same thing, okay, in different ways. And they're all trying to educate you, because what dominates the airways is what drug you can take for your newest condition. And drugs may be important as a bridge to get you to the other side. Like some women may have to do chemo. Some women have to do estrogen blockers. Some women have to shut down their ovaries. I tell them it's temporary. Let's get you healed with a scan that says no evidence of disease. And then we can go in and do the underground work. And so, so women who had breast cancer and they want to get pregnant, I'm told them, I had a lady come in the other day. Now she is 40, and I told her, you're kind of a little, older, your body's not as, and we're going to have to see how much the chemo affected her. Now she did low dose chemo, but we're going to have to see how much chemo affected the organs, right? But we can revive the organs. I have for probably 25 years used I call it my fertility protocol, okay, which I'm more than happy to send that to you and share it with you. But my fertility protocol, supplement wise, okay. So I've been using standard process for 30 years or whatever, and I've used part of their fertility protocol. But fertility protocol, those are just the targeted supplements. The other thing is your diet and how you're eating, how you're thinking. Everything is involved with that. So, and then making sure your hormones are ideal. Your adrenals, all those things have to be ideal for you and to get pregnant and to have a healthy baby. So it's multiple facets, right? So when it comes to breast cancer, I'm totally like, I'm fine as long as we are watching you and we've got your body in pristine state. Like, for example, I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
I had a patient who came in, and she's a young girl. She's probably 20 something years old, and her pap smear came back abnormal, and she has HPV, and she wants obviously to have a family. So, because they told her, oh no, we're going to do a hysterectomy. And I said, oh, wait. Let's see. I believe we can fix all of this and preserve you and get you well. Okay. I've had a couple of patients like this. I had this lady from Utah, same thing. They told her, oh no. And then we fixed it all with just losing her weight. She was like over 100 pounds overweight. Well, obesity is a risk factor for everything. And then, and people don't understand obesity. You're a storage depot for every toxin and every endocrine problem. So you cannot, you have to get ideal weight, because this is a health thing, not a cosmetic thing. This is about health. And so anyway, that lady completely, and the doctor said, no, there's absolutely no. And then he went and I said, look, I want you to go back to Utah, repeat your pap smear now that we have fixed everything. And it came back normal. And he says, oh, we still need to do a hysterectomy. I go, what? I go, no, you need to go to a different doctor. This is not okay. So I sent her to a new physician, and we got it all right. And so anyway, but she comes and sees me about every 6 months, but she's all good now. I mean, everything is good and great. The only problem is she's still battling her weight a little bit. But I told her and her husband last time, I said, you guys have got to be committed to your health. Nothing's going to work until you make commitment and execution of your health. So the other little girl that I was telling you about, so I'm going to be doing endo laser. It's a special kind of light therapy with different kind of photosynthesizers. It's called endo laser, Weber endo laser, to get rid of her, to get rid of her problem. I've done it before on patients. Okay. I had a stage 4 cervical cancer patient. She had cervical cancer. They said, oh, you'll get struck by lightning before you get this cancer comes back. Well, guess what? 6 years later, it's back in her cervix and back in her lungs. So what did I do? It showed up on the PET scan in her cervix. I put the endo laser with a photosynthesizer. A photosynthesizer is a substance that takes up light. So the light activates the pathological tissue, and then I just use light, which is not dangerous to the patient, and 3 treatments, and it's gone. And so, we can do this. I mean, we don't want to take away. We should always try to preserve your anatomy. Every piece of your anatomy, every single cell is important. We should not be being destructive about our body. We should always try to restore health and optimization and homeostasis to the patient first, because we're going to have to do that anyway, So I tell people, always do your homework, because you've got to become the student. You've got to become the person that learns and educates yourself. And see, that's the problem we have today in our society. We're not teaching people about health possession. Okay. And health possession is, I'm in charge. I am taking responsibility for my health, and I am going to learn about my health and what I need to do to ensure the best life possible. That's what we should be teaching. Starts with the mom and dad at home, and then learning. We have unlimited learning possibilities. Okay. There's just unlimited now. Back in my day, we only had Britannica, but now we have outrageous educational, systems out there, whether it's podcasts, whether it's lectures, whether it's books. I mean, there's just so much information out there. So always try to look for the best kind of outside the box way to heal yourself, and then verify that you're healed and get with a doctor who really knows and understands. In my book, Cancer Revolution, it doesn't matter what disease process you have. There's invaluable information in there on how to get healthy. And so, and if you're worried about cancer, I talk about all the hormones and everything. So, things don't have to be as difficult as we make them out to be, because once you learn it and become the steward and student of your body, then you learn it. And I tell people, you don't learn it in a month. It takes a good year to kind of turn your environment and life around. Okay. And so, because we all put too much pressure on ourselves that everything has to get done today. No, you don't want to live like that. You just want to say little bite-sized pieces. I'll do okay, let me get my pantry this month. And then let me get, the next things. Let me get my cleaning supplies in order. Then let me get my water organized. Every little thing, but give it time. It takes, I tell people, at least a year. And by the time patients see me, they already have, a lot of them already have a diagnosis. So that means there's lots of disarray and disorganization going on in their body. So in the beginning, there will be a lot to do just to get things. But, afterwards you're dialed in, and I tell people self-care is the new healthcare. And so if you got to learn how to take care of yourself, because the medical system is a conveyor belt now. It is not going to take care of you. Everyone's going to get the same thing over and over and over again. And that's not what you want, because you're unique. Every one of you is unique. And so how can a conveyor belt system work for everybody?
I agree. It's empowering to know there's things you can do. And a lot of times that medical gaslighting where we're told something, especially these people have been told by an RE that, donor eggs are your only option. You're going to struggle. Nothing's going to work for you. Your body is broken. They may feel broken. I was diagnosed with, POI at 28, being told nothing will work. I know all the people that we've helped now that there was things I could have done back when I was 28. I was still cycling, but I discovered it later for a reason. And, here we are. So let's just talk.
Someone now your mess becomes your message. And so
It's true.
You're
Yeah.
trying to get your message out.
Yeah.
So that's great.
And so a question from a listener here around, thyroid cancer. She's had a full thyroidectomy, and she's been recommended Synthroid. And I guess talking about the effects of radioactive iodine treatment. So what would you say to her for her next steps there?
Right. So thyroid cancer is growing rapidly. And I
Mhm.
believe because of pollution or diet, probably EMFs. And so unfortunately, it's growing. I mean, every kind of thyroid problem, Hashimoto's, hyperthyroidism, thyroid cancer. I mean, I take thyroid myself. And so if you have thyroid cancer, I have had patients try to naturally take care of it. And I will try to do that because it's not an aggressive cancer. And if that doesn't work, like if I can't get it well, I go, okay, now it's time to, do something. And then the determination is, do you remove your whole thyroid or the part that's diseased? And
Mhm.
I tell people, you want to try to preserve some of your thyroid function and thyroid tissue. But if the thyroid is all diseased, you may have to remove all of the thyroid. Okay. And the doctor doing the surgery will look and see how much diseased, and will take lymph nodes if they look bad and test lymph nodes that may be suspicious, because you want to make sure that there's nothing in any lymph nodes and that no lymph nodes look pathological. Okay. And then unfortunately, they give everyone Synthroid. Well, unfortunately, Synthroid and levothyroxine are synthetic T4, only T4. So the way your thyroid works is you have something called the hypothalamic pituitary axis that sends messages to your thyroid to make hormones. Well, now you don't have that function because your thyroid's gone. So your thyroid physiologically makes T4, which is inactive, and T3. T4 has to be converted to T3 in the liver. So a lot of people, if they're compromised or challenged or stressed, you don't make that T3. So we got to make sure that when the doctor orders the blood test, that they do comprehensive thyroid testing. Okay. They've got to check everything. And I would also check the parathyroids. The parathyroids are what's around the thyroid. So if you remove and disturb the anatomy of the thyroid, we got to make sure parathyroid, which controls your calcium, magnesium, and all of that, those hormones. So anyway, it's way more complicated than just taking Synthroid. Okay.
Mhm.
So usually I find that I have to give patients a thyroid supplement that is T4 and T3, or if they take Synthroid, I give them T3, which is lidothreonine. And I've been using, T3 for 37 years. So I know exactly how to balance the thyroid out because I've been doing it for such a long time. And being low thyroid, I've tried every thyroid out there because I wanted to learn. So I took Synthroid and I feel horrible. So I tried it like 5 times and I'm like, no, it doesn't work. So I personally take a NP, something called NP thyroid. So I
Right.
always take a natural thyroid. Okay. And I have, and that's, and I have tried to get off thyroid. I have literally tried with all kinds of supplementation, all kind of things. And I've never been, I was off for 1 month and I'm like, okay, I'm doing the same things. Why is it? But I think it's personally, I think for me, it's EMS, really affect the thyroid. And I think my history of DES really affects my system that I never had a rhythm. I don't know. I just know that if I don't have thyroid, I can't function because thyroid's the battery to your body, and thyroid is the center of the orchestra of your endocrine system. And so you've got to have your thyroid working. So you have to work with a physician who really totally understands all the facets of the thyroid, because here you are going from thyroidectomy to taking a synthetic thyroid product and or the natural product, and you got to make sure you're perfect, and then you got to make sure you have plenty of prescription in case something happened, because you can't live without the thyroid. And then I will tell you, if you've had thyroid cancer, you better make sure you're checking your circulating tumor cells. So circulating tumor cells are existent in all cancers except brain. And so circulating tumor cells start when cancer gets to a size of 1 to 2 millimeters. So that's 2 pencil lines. So it starts releasing circulating tumor cells. Why are those important? Because circulating tumor cells are responsible for 95% of metastasis, the cancer going somewhere else. So a lot of doctors go, oh, you have thyroid cancer, surgery fix you, you're cured. No, well, that's not true. So the definition in the books today, or in cancer books, are that circulating tumor cells are zero. That is remission and cure. So there's only one really good lab that works and tests for circulating tumor cells, and that is the RGCC lab. Yes, there are some labs in Germany and France and Austria that do, but I usually use RGCC because they're the oldest and they have the largest menu. And so I don't have anything to do with the lab. I just have been using them for 10 years. And I find it correlates most closely to everything that I'm doing. I tell people there's nothing perfect. If I send your cholesterol to 10 different labs, I promise you I'd get 10 different numbers. And that's just cholesterol. It's sad to say, but I know because I've done it. And so RGCC is about 85% accurate, but it's better than nothing. Okay. Otherwise, you're guessing. And so we can't be guessing when it comes to our health. So the circulating tumor cells, so you may be fine for 5-7 years, like the cervical cancer patient I just mentioned, but they never checked your circulating tumor cells. And that's where the cancer came all back. And so we've got to check circulating tumor cells of the future. So you can actually do a liquid biopsy now. Let's pretend for a moment you don't have a diagnosis of cancer. Maybe you're looking, Dr. Keneally, I just want to make sure I don't have cancer. So I would do the comprehensive blood testing I talk about in my book. I would do a liquid biopsy looking for circulating tumor cells. I would do imaging, whether it's thermography, ultrasounds, MRI, scan, whatever scans I think are deemed necessary. And I would verify, and then I would do the bioenergetic testing. And all of that, you guys, it's not expensive and it's fast. You get out your information very quickly. So it's way easier to take care of a small problem than take care of a big problem. So because when you're sick, if you came and spent 3 days with me and you saw these patients and it's awful. It's awful. Their existence, they have, when they're diagnosed with, big cancer cases, they spend all their time not being well, going to treatment, going to scans, going here. So an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
How often would you do the circulating tumor test then?
Well, it depends on the patient. Okay. If you have cancer, I would do it once a year because I would be checking, because I would give you the supplements you need, because only natural supplements kill circulating tumor cells. I don't want to say there's no drug. There's 2 drugs, doxycycline and naltrexone, that kill circulating tumor cells. Okay. But when I get the test back, it shows me all the efficacious agents that kill the circulating tumor cell. But let's pretend for a moment you just came to see me for prevention and early detection. I see you once a year. Okay. Once I get you on your program and you're all dialed in. But if it's a cancer patient, I have to see you to make sure everything is good and wonderful. And I always tell people I kind of now do 2 years, because it's what I see now, because I tell people the arena and environment we're living in today, 2022, is so unpredictable in the environment that I have to watch the patient better and more. And I'll tell you, I have a couple of guy patients that I treat for prostate cancer, and they were stable as can be. They got COVID and their cancer blew up like wildfire. And I was like, after 5 years, they were 5 years stable, and all of a sudden, that their cancer just, went crazy. And I'm like, oh my God, I've never seen this in my life. Okay. And they were older. They weren't young people. They were, 70. And I'm like, now how did this happen? So then it's like, okay, I got to recalibrate because I'm in the trenches every day. I see patients every day. I see what's happening. And I don't just see local patients, I see people all over. So I'm seeing 3D what is happening. Okay. And because we go down such a rabbit hole here in the clinic, we are getting the microscope out and looking at every single thing. And I just can't even tell you the amount of things that are different today than they were 5 or 10 years ago.
So in the last couple of years then, so the 911 that you're seeing, like what are you attributing that to? Any sort of like theses at this stage, or?
Well, I think personally, because I ponder this like literally every day. So I think it's one, much more environmental toxicity. Number two, way more stress. I think people have unbelievable stress today. People had stress long time ago, but I don't know. I don't know. It was different the way older people processed it. Okay. And then I think what I ponder, because when I grew up, people ate bologna sandwiches, Miracle Whip. They had donuts at their house. I didn't grow up like that, but all of our friends did not have healthy food, but they were outside and playing outside and in the sun and all that. They were so physically active. Okay. And nobody was fat. No one was diabetic. No one had any chronic medical issues. Okay. No one. All right. So what is the difference? In the last 30 years, the biggest thing is EMFs and toxicity. That is what it is. And people say, oh, EMFs, and that there hasn't been any studies. Oh my gosh, there's thousands of studies. Okay. So, but people tell me that, and I'm like, oh my God, we are electrical beings. We are energetic beings, just like the orchestra is finely tuned, just like the TED Talk where they talk about, the singer who breaks the glass because there's a frequency that was involved, okay, that broke the glass, right? So we're all bioenergetic beings. Every single one of our cells are resonating energy and photon lights. So we are, and these are man-made energy frequencies that, we still don't know all the ramifications, but, I read up on it because I've been studying it for 15 years. And I'm like, no, these are big deal. Look at nature. If you look at nature, what's happening in nature, there's just, and then you look about the study about the cell phone in the pocket with the infertility. And now they're reporting the people where they're increased colon cancer because they wear it in their pocket in young people and 25-year-olds. Okay. This is ridiculous. And so, but and your cell phone insert does say it's carcinogenic, but people don't read the fine print. So, but I do think it's personally, I don't wear my cell phone because I'm not, 18. And I don't have my cell phone. I have, and at night I have airplane mode and I turn off all the electricity and I have a canopy on my bed because I know my sleep is the most precious time. So I've taken all the precautions, just because I read all the time about this because I'm personally interested in it. And it's the invisible energy, you can't feel it, see it, taste it. So you don't realize it's around. So it's out of sight, out of mind. So we all need to read on it and study on it. And there's lots of great, phenomenal Nobel Prize winners that talk about this and write the studies and everything. And I tell people, even if it's only partially true, we need to be concerned. I think about the drug they used on me, DES. They used that for 42 years, knowing it was carcinogenic.
Yeah.
So we can't blindly trust things today because a lot of things are not, we're not transparent. We're not transparent with the ingredients in the food. Okay. They don't have to list all the ingredients if it's minute amounts. So,
Well, yeah, I've done many episodes on EMFs and really taking the phone out of the pocket and taking the phone away from the ear. Do not like.
oh gosh, when I see people walking around with their phone in their ear, you're just like,
Yeah.
yeah. We never saw glioblastoma. Now we see it regularly. How can that be the new normal? That's just impossible. Why is getting cancer the new normal? That is, we all should be in alarm bells, every single one of us. Because if you have heart attack, I have to say you can really do a lot to fix and reverse that. Okay. Now, personally, I don't see heart attacks because I do all the workup prevention of patients. So I don't even have a patient once a year have a heart attack. Cancer, on the other hand, it's tricky because I tell people, I always use the analogy, cancer's like 100 leaks in the roof and it's a tornado, rainstorm, and hurricane, and you got to seal them all off. And that's cancer. And so cancer is just so much more complicated, especially if the diagnosis is stage 4, stage 1, we can turn that around, and, it's 1 and 2, you can turn around. But the 3s and 4s and the environment that we're living in, and people, if you just do conventional oncology, you must combine the best of conventional with the new, what I call updated medicine. They use the word functional. That's not a really good word, but integrative, but it's the new updated medicine. There's 1.2 million PubMed articles per year. We're all way behind.
Agree. And so the biomarkers to detect early cancer from I've heard you talk before. So A1C, CRP, DHES. Anything you want to say about that?
Yeah, that, and then you can do a quantitative HCG because HCG is, as long as you're not pregnant, is a marker for cancer. So I use this blood test called the Cancer Profile that checks blood, HCG, and urine. And it's so funny, when I started using it many years ago, and I said, oh, look, I think I'm just going to try it on the regular lab. Well, our labs are so good now today that you can order it on your own lab, quantitative HCG, and it will show like 1, 2, or 3. So then we kind of know. There is a urine test also that you can check for HCG. That's very effective. But you mentioned DHEA sulfate, that's adrenal. CRP, you should not have any inflammation in your body. If you do, it's the red light on the dashboard of the car. Yes, and hemoglobin A1C is a reflection of sugar over 90 days, because higher sugar, you weaken all the cells. So for every disease process. So those are the main ones. And then you can do, like I said, the Cancer Profile blood test, which is early detection of cancer, then the liquid biopsy. Okay. And so, and that's the kind of test, we don't have to do all the time. So, most lab testing that we do is covered by medical insurance companies. Okay. And now the prices of lab are very affordable. I can do let's say if you didn't have insurance, it's only $250. I can get a lot done for $250. So there's no excuse really now, with where we are, what we know, to not all of us be, in charge of prevention of cancer. But I had one of my patients come in from Texas the other day, and she's 7 years out. She only came to see me for early detection and prevention because every single person in her family died of cancer. And she goes, I can't do it again. I can't live it again. So she and her sister came 7 years ago. And sure enough, I detected breast in one and ovarian in the other. Nothing on scans, though. Nothing on scans. Okay. No, I did MRIs and everything, nothing on scans, but I did the liquid biopsy and another blood test that showed the cancer. And then I did the bioenergetic testing. And she goes, Dr. Canley, I try to tell people all the time about doing this prevention, early detection. She goes, that I have not had any interruption in my life. I don't have any downtime because I am, preventing cancer. Okay. But she goes, it doesn't resonate with people. What is it that with all of us, that we have to have a wake up call to do something about our health? We've got to make this more contagious, like this needs to be a contagious phenomena that like all of us together. And I always tell people, we can't be selfish. We have to think about our health affects all of our loved ones, family and friends, and it affects the community as a whole. The community as a whole will be weakened if each and one of us is not strong and powerful with our own health.
Yeah, prevention, take your health into your own hands, right? Exactly. Stop waiting for someone else to save you.
Yes, exactly.
Bioidentical hormones and your take on cancer risk. Anything you want? We're wrapping up here soon, but I just want to get the question ahead from listeners.
Yeah, so bioidentical hormones do not cause cancer.
Right.
Okay. Do not cause cancer. People have thought for years, but the last conventional meeting on oncology, 2019, in San Antonio, Texas, says that hormones don't cause cancer. All right. And so there is actually a conventional book called Estrogen Matters. It's all conventional and it's all using conventional hormones, but he also takes apart everything that hormones don't cause cancer. And so we've been living under the wrong information for a long time. Hormones are the natural drugs to your body. So, unfortunately at 50 or 55, your hormones can start declining early. They can start at 30, everyone's different. That's why, unfortunately, in this day and time, we all need to be checking our hormones. And because it's just a different world today. But hormones are the natural drugs that are chemical messengers that turn on and off cells. And so we need the right balance. They're anti-aging, promote longevity, and promote health. And so, your brain, your liver, your heart, your bones, immune system are all function of a ideal, level of hormones. Not a lot of hormones, just the hormones. Okay. So biologically identical hormones do not increase cancer. What does happen in the estrogen field is we have xenoestrogens, which I'm sure you've talked about. So the xenoestrogens are everywhere now. And so that's what we should be, dealing with, and make sure that we're cleansing on a regular basis, these xenoestrogen, make sure our liver is good by doing a liver flush and liver support to make sure we are metabolizing these hormones properly. So that is the most important thing that women and men need to be aware of.
And thermography versus mammograms.
Well, that's a great question. So what I use as imaging is the standard of care that everyone needs to know is they get a mammogram between usually 35 and 40. So a chest X-ray is 1 millirad. A mammogram is 343 millirads. So it's a lot of radiation when you get a mammogram. I sometimes use mammography. On young people, there is nothing. So I do thermogram and ultrasound. Thermogram is phenomenal. What is thermogram? Is vascularity of a breast. So we know that cancer is vascular. They stay alive because of a blood supply. So we do thermography, and I recommend that for everyone now. For every person, young, doesn't matter. Women need to be doing these regularly. And ultrasound is non-invasive, no radiation. It's very easy and great. But if I suspect something like calcifications, you pick up on a mammogram. But I don't recommend it all the time. I do it, carefully, depending on every single patient. A lot of my patients refuse mammogram completely because they know, they've read the studies that the more mammograms, the higher risk of breast cancer and probably other cancers because radiation goes everywhere in your body. And so, so if you do mammograms regularly, you're higher risk for breast cancer, just so you know, that's what all the studies show. And so, so we got to be using scanning, any kind of scanning where there's X-rays and CT imaging, MRIs with gadolinium. We need to all know how to protect the patient if they have to give any of those. So I do precautionary measures with all the patients if they have to get any kind of scan, not with thermogram and not with ultrasound, because there's absolutely no downside whatsoever. So women should be doing at young age, should be doing breast imaging. And the mammogram would be decided, usually around 40 at some point in time. I would do it, but it's not the kind of thing I do like you don't get one every year. And one word of caution is a lot of times the mammogram says your breasts are dense and density of breasts will obscure masses. So that means automatically you better do an ultrasound. And that's not what happens. They don't order the proper the ultrasound if they see that. So I do always, and I know all of our doctors do. So yes, it's a great tool. I love it.
And final thoughts on our talk today with fertility and cancer, any final thoughts you want to share?
Well, I've read all the studies. I did infertility treatments, and I think you did too, right? So, unfortunately, when I had did it many years ago, they used much larger dosages of things. Of course, I've taken, I do all the precautions and get tested and all kind of things, everything I'm talking to you about. And so, uh, the thing is that, infertility is a risk. Okay. If you have endometriosis, PCOS, or infertility, that's a risk for cancer, period. Okay. Because that means something's not right in your body. All right. So the key thing is to restore optimal function with your body, verify if you have cancer, and then if you did infertility treatments, I don't see it like super strong, but there's a risk. And so you need to, if there's any little risk, take the proper precautions and do the proactive measures to make sure and work with a physician that knows this stuff and really, verify that you're a-okay.
Looking at the diet, lifestyle, yeah, taking that
Yeah.
targeted approach. And so you've got weekly cancer conversations here on Wednesdays. Can you kind of share with listeners what they can, where they can find those and what they can expect?
Right. So I did that because there's just a constant quest of information.
Mhm.
And you can't learn cancer in one visit or one lecture. So we have ongoing lectures every other Wednesday and at 5 o'clock, and that is Pacific Standard Time. And we talk about all kinds of subjects, everything from emotion to stress to nutrient testing to hormone testing to you name it. It's procedures, modalities, all kinds of things. And so it was just on last night. And so they can sign up on our websites, Cancer Center for Healing for the cancer, and then Center for New Medicine side. So I would have everyone listen to those because they're just, one of my patients told me last night, I need every session that you ever did.
So that's
So,
at cancercenterforhealing.com. They can find that, and we'll have that in the show notes. And thank
right.
you
And
so
I
much.
put it on Instagram and I
Okay.
put it on everywhere because we need to, everything's about information, correct?
Yes,
So
and definitely follow you. What's your Instagram handle?
Keneally MD.
Yeah, and it's awesome. I think you just had a celebration of a special birthday, and I see all the food that you and your coworkers are eating all the time, and it's an awesome channel. Love it. And so, thank you so much for sharing your words of wisdom. You love your passion, your commitment, your dedication, and thank you so much for all the work that you do.
Well, my privilege.
Awesome. Thank you.